everybody, welcome to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, we have been so busy in the garden the last few weeks, harvesting and then bringing everything into the house for preserving. And one of the things I've been doing is some fermentation. Now, I've been posting quite a bit on Instagram and Facebook these days, all the different things that I've been doing here in the kitchen. And I've had a lot of interest from you guys about the things I've been fermenting. And a lot of you are asking questions about how to do it, how it works, and all of that. So today I thought I would do two fermentation projects with you. I'm going to start a corn relish ferment just like this, and a fermented carrot jar, but with hot peppers in there. These are dill carrots, but my next batch will be spicy carrots. Not only am I going to share the recipes for this, but I'm also going to tell you how fermentation works, why it is safe, and we'll go over the best way that I have found to do the fermentation process. But first, I don't have all of the ingredients in the house to do these two projects, so we need to take a trip out to the garden and harvest some of the things that we'll be working with. What I need from the garden today are peppers. The corn relish calls for red peppers, so I'll see if any of my Ajvarsky peppers are ready. They are a red roasting pepper. They start out green, and then when they're completely ripe, they turn red. I'm not sure if I have any red ones because I have been using them in the house for other things, but we'll check. And the pickled carrots, I need jalapenos. So we're gonna get both of those kinds of peppers from the garden today. Well, we're kind of in luck. We found one that's partially red, but partially green. It's a nice sized pepper, we'll take it. I also noticed that our banana peppers are turning orange, so I decided to get a couple of them and put them in with our carrots because that will look pretty. And jalapenos, of course. Okay, we got the peppers. Here's that gorgeous Ajvarsky pepper, red roasting pepper. It's not quite red all the way, but it will be pretty. Also, here are the banana peppers, which now that I'm thinking about it, I think these are lunchbox peppers and not banana peppers because they kind of turned orange, but they're gonna be beautiful. And then I only got 2 jalapeno peppers because I think 2 peppers in 1 quart jar. These are half-gallon jars. So today I'm only gonna be fermenting in a quart-size jar. So I think 2 peppers is gonna be spicy enough for that. Okay, so we're gonna set these aside and start getting ready. We're gonna do the carrots first. So let me get everything else out, and then as I'm working, I'll kind of explain to you how fermenting works and what makes it safe. You know, I think a lot of us are really comfortable with canning because we know that we heat everything up and sterilize everything and boil everything, and it kills all of the bacteria that is supposed to be bad. So what about fermenting? Because the fermented vegetables will never be canned. They'll be fermented and then just kept in the refrigerator. Some of these ferments will last for 3 months in the refrigerator, some 6 months, some up to a year, maybe even more in some cases. So what keeps them safe? So we'll talk about that. Let me get everything we need out to do this, this carrot ferment. Okay, let's get started. We're actually going to be starting with baby carrots. These are organic baby carrots. We actually got these from our church. Our church has been getting produce boxes from the USDA, I guess. I guess the USDA is purchasing extra produce from some farmers and giving it to churches to distribute to people in their community. And we got a couple boxes, one for us and one for Kevin's parents. And we have extra baby carrots, so I'm going to be using those today in our ferment. Now, This is gonna be a little bit less formal, I think, than most videos, so hopefully you enjoy this format. So first I need to rinse these in the sink. We have well water, non-chlorinated water. It's very good water. So I'm just going to be rinsing these. I say that because when you're fermenting, you don't want to use chlorinated water. So let me just rinse these. Okay, I'm gonna start filling this jar. I'm gonna fill it a little ways, and then I'm gonna start adding some of my peppers, and I'm going to start also adding some garlic. I'm gonna add a total of 2 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna use my handy garlic peeler here. This is like my favorite thing on the planet. Not really, but I really like this. And it is in our Amazon shop. You just put your clove of garlic inside there and roll it around in there, and the peel comes off inside of there, and there you have a peeled clove of garlic. Do that to the second one here. Super easy. I'm gonna cut these in half. I'm not even gonna mince them. I'm just gonna cut them in half. I'm gonna put 2 halves in there right away, and then I'm gonna wait for the other one in another layer, okay? So I'm gonna do some of our peppers here. I'm gonna add the slices of 1 jalapeno pepper. I'm gonna add some more carrots because this is just gonna be pretty. The layering effect is gonna be pretty. Another garlic. 2 is plenty for this whole jar. I'm gonna add one of these banana peppers. Well, I called them banana peppers before, but I think they're actually lunchbox peppers. More carrots. I'm gonna shake them down, jostle them so they're in there nicely. I'm gonna top with the last of the jalapeno peppers. So now all the vegetables that we need for this fermentation project are already in there. They're ready to go. So the next thing we need to do is create a brine. Now this is where the magic happens, and I want to start explaining to you how the fermentation process works. In the canning process, you're heating everything up, which kills all the bacteria. In a fermenting process, you're not killing all of the bacteria, you're only killing the bad bacteria while you're allowing the good bacteria to live. And the environment that you're creating is actually feeding the bacteria, which creates lactic acid, and lactic acid preserves your food. So let me tell you how that's going to work. We're killing the bad bacteria with salt. So in this situation, we're going to be making a salt brine, which is salty water, basically. We're going to pour the salty water into our jar with vegetables. Now, like I said, the salt is going to kill the bad bacteria, but the good bacteria is not killed by salt. It survives, and it actually eats the sugars that are in your food, the natural sugars in your vegetables, and it creates, like I said, lactic acid. And that is what keeps your food from going bad. Now, the good bacteria is actually called lactobacillus, and that is a fantastic bacteria, not only to create the lactic acid, which preserves your food, but it's also great for our bodies. You may have heard that fermented foods are so good for you. Not only do they create the lactic acid that preserves your food and preserves the nutrients in your food, but that good bacteria is so good for your gut health, good for IBS, and just overall good for your health. While the canning process preserves your food and no bacteria grows in there, and it does keep some of the nutrients of your food, the benefits of fermenting your food is that you get all of the nutrition and you get those fantastic good bacteria in your body. So I've talked about it, let's actually do it. Okay, let's make the brine, or the salt water solution. Now, the ratio of salt to water is important. Some vegetables don't have a lot of water in them, so they will need less salt to kill the bad bacteria. Vegetables with high water content will need more salt in the brine. So for instance, these carrots, they don't have a whole lot of water in them in comparison to cucumbers, okay? So a salt solution just for the carrots would be 1 teaspoon of salt per cup of water. But the peppers have a little bit more water content, so you would want to do 1.5 to 2 teaspoons per cup of water. So to compromise today for this brine, this saltwater solution, I'm going to be doing 1.5 teaspoons per cup of water to make the brine. Because this is a 4-cup container, but I have it pretty crammed full of vegetables, I think I'm gonna only need about 2 cups of water total to fill this. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make brine out of the 2 cups of water, and I'm gonna put a total of 3 teaspoons of salt. Now, the salt that you're going to use, you want something that's on the natural side for salt. So no iodized table salt, or really table salt in general. You want something like sea salt, or this is pink Himalayan salt. There's something out there called real salt. You can use that. Again, I'm using 3 teaspoons of salt. We're gonna stir this until all of the salt is dissolved in the water. A lot of people will warm up half of the water so that their salt will dissolve faster. I didn't do that this time, so it's just gonna mean that I need to stir it a little bit longer. Okay, that is dissolved. And so now we're gonna pour the salt brine into the jar until it comes close to the top, and we're gonna stop before it gets to 1 inch. So I'm gonna stop at like 1.5 inches above the top of the jar. I'm gonna stop right there. Now the reason that I have stopped putting the liquid in pretty far down is because I want to add a weight. The reason you want to put a weight on top is to hold your vegetables down into your brine. Anything that is above your brine could mold and then spoil your entire ferment. So let me grab the new fermentation set that I've been using this year that I absolutely love. This year I have started using the fermentation products from the company called Year of Plenty. Now this is a small family business that is all out of the US. They sell through Amazon, and I really love their products. The company offers 2 different kinds of weights. The normal glass weight, which is solid. Let me show it to you. And if you've done any fermentation, you know kind of what I'm talking about. So this is a little glass weight that you put on top of your ferments to hold down all of your vegetables. Now this works perfectly fine, but the thing that I don't like about these just flat glass weights is that when it's down in there, it's hard to get out. Like, it's slippery and it's just hard to work with. But they have a really awesome solution to this. They have fermentation weights that kind of have like a little grippy handle. I don't know if you can see that there is a circle in there with a part cut out, and so you can grab onto it and lift it in and out. That is super handy, and I love this, okay? So this is what I'm gonna be using. I've actually used all the others that I have like this. So I'm going to be putting this down into the top of my ferment, and that will hold the vegetables down inside the brine, okay? Now I'm gonna backfill the brine until it comes to the top of the weight. And it will fill the little groove inside that weight too, okay? It's filling it. Okay, everything is covered. The next thing is to prevent bacteria from getting inside your jar. Now there is a plastic wide mouth lid that goes onto it, and it has a little gasket inside, which I love because it prevents these lids from leaking, and it prevents if your ferment like comes up, bubbles up and overflows, it doesn't come out through the cap. So I'm gonna put that on top of there, screw it on. You set the airlock inside this little hole here, push it down in here. I need to put some water inside of here, but it will let air come out, but it won't let air go back in and won't allow bacteria to get in there. And I really like this system. There, I put some water in there so that your air bubbles that will happen in the fermentation process will come up through here, through the water and out, and won't let air or bacteria back in. I really like that process. Now, a couple years ago, I did maybe 1 or 2 fermentation videos, and I was using a different system. The other system was called Mason Tops. And now the Mason Tops company is a fantastic company. Their products work just like they say they're going to work, but there are 2 things that I didn't like about the Mason Top system. The first thing is you use regular metal canning rings, and when they get wet and if there's any of the brine that comes out, I found that they rusted, and I didn't like that. The other thing that I didn't like is that when they overflowed, they would come out of here and would kind of come down and all over my counter. I know I would put them on a plate or in a bowl or something like that. I just felt like this was a lot messier. Now, I've had some ferments. In fact, I had this corn ferment over here produce its own juices. Well, really, the juices come out of the corn and then bubble up. And instead of bubbling out all over the counter, they started backing up into this airlock. And I was able to see that happening because my airlock liquid was cloudy. So before it was able to back up and overflow all over my counter, I was able to prevent that from happening because I saw it going on before it was all over my counter. So that was another reason why I really like this system and this airlock versus the Mason Top system. So I wanted to show you guys this. This is what I'm using now. These sets are available on Amazon. We also feel a larger burden and sense of responsibility when we're bringing you guys products because we know you guys trust us to bring you good things. So this is one of those things that we think we're bringing to you as something very positive and useful and worth the investment. So I talked a lot about this system here, but I don't want to forget the end of this project here. So once you have all of this on, it's really ready to set and ready to just have you watch it for a while, okay? Within the first 24 hours or so, you're gonna see bubbles starting and the liquid is gonna be a little bit more cloudy. That's fermentation starting. Some vegetables are going to take 10 days to be completely done, some 14 days, other 5. So make sure you're checking your recipe on how long you should expect for them to ferment before they're done. This recipe will take about 10 days. At about the 10-day mark, you want to try one, okay? It's not going to be salty anymore. It's going to be a little bit sour tasting, but a good sour, so don't be freaked out by that. So taste one. If it tastes good to you, the amount of sourness, hey, it's done. Then take this off, put on a normal lid, and put it in the refrigerator. If you think that it could be a little bit more sour, leave it for another day or 2 and try it again. It's not going to go bad. Just continue tasting it until you like it and then put it in the refrigerator. These will last for probably 3 to 6 months if I don't eat them all, which I'm going to. Now, the next project we're gonna do is a little bit different, and it only has to ferment for 5 days before you can eat it. So let me get this all cleaned up and get ready for corn relish. Corn relish is something that you can. It has a different recipe than we're gonna be following today, but it is perfect to use with homegrown corn, sweet corn. We have a bunch of it this year. On our last video, you saw that we started harvesting the corn, and since then we have harvested almost all of it, and almost all of it we've preserved through canning, but we've been eating a bunch of fresh sweet corn. But today we're going to preserve some through the fermentation process. I have 1/2 gallon going already, and today we're gonna do another quart of the corn relish. It is super simple, so we're just gonna go through that process and show you. The first thing we need to do is to cut some of this corn off the cob. We need 2 cups of sweet corn to start. I'll probably do a little bit more than that just for good measure and get that started into our mix. You can probably imagine that we have been cutting a lot of corn off of the cob so that I can can it. We've tried a couple different gadgets to see if we can find an easier way to cut corn off the cob besides just a good old sharp knife. And honestly, the sharp knife won out. This has just been the easiest way for us to get the corn off the cob. Okay, I have those 2 cups of corn all ready and set aside. Now we're going to use half of this pepper that I harvested from the garden. It's a big pepper, so I'm gonna use half of that. And then I also think that these lunchbox peppers or banana peppers, I think they're beautiful. You can barely see them very well, but they're beautiful, so I'm gonna add one of those. Because this part, all these veggies can just be like, just chopped up really quickly in the food processor, I'm gonna put them in my food processor just to break those down really quickly. I am gonna remove the seeds. Now these aren't spicy peppers, but I just think it's better without the seeds. Okay, cutting these into smaller chunks for the food processor. We also need a small onion. So I'm just gonna put that right in the food processor along with the peppers. Put them into smaller chunks into the food processor. Let's go chop these up. Those are all chopped up, so now we're gonna add our corn just to a big bowl here. Add the contents of our food processor, the onion, and the 2 different types of peppers. But I think it needs some garlic, so let's add some garlic. Now you could add 2 small cloves of garlic or 1 bigger clove. I'm gonna add 1 bigger clove. Use my fancy peeler, and I'm actually gonna get out my mincer. I love this. We also have this in our Amazon shop. Put that in there. Just gonna mince that. Scrape it off there, down in there. Then we're gonna mix that together. All of that mixture, the corn, the onions, the peppers, the garlic, mince it up really well. Oh, you should smell it already, you guys. Onions are making me cry a little bit. Okay, now this is where it gets different than the other recipe we just worked on. In this corn relish, we're adding the salt right to the vegetables and we're gonna mix it in. And for this one, we're going to use 1 full tablespoon of salt. And we're gonna mix that in really well. Stir it in. Now in this recipe, over time, a lot of the liquid will come out of the corn. We will be packing this into a jar and backfilling with fresh water, but the corn juices inside the corn will also come out over time. And I'm telling you that because this recipe has much more of a chance of overflowing out of your jar and through that airlock than the other recipe that we did. In fact, mine has overflowed in this half-gallon jar twice. I've had to open it up and pour out some of the liquid. So just keep that in mind. This looks mixed up well, so now let's grab our jar and the weight and the airlock system and put it in there. Well, I tamped it all down. You're supposed to press it down in there, and it didn't quite make enough. So I'm gonna chop up some more corn, mix more in, and add a little bit more salt so we can fill that up. Okay, another 1 cup of corn. I'm gonna add another half of a tablespoon of salt just to make up the difference. There we go, that's better. That's about 1.5 inches from the top. Now that this is filled up, we're gonna backfill with water, with non-chlorinated water. We're gonna fill it almost to the top, just like before, and we'll put our weight in there. Okay, we're gonna put our weight in. And I'm just gonna pour a little bit more water because I know that this ferment is going to create a lot more liquid. Just top it off a tiny bit. Put the top on. Put the airlock on. I'm just gonna add a little bit of water. Put that top back on. Okay guys, well those 2 fermentation projects are completely finished. Now, each of these will be done in a different amount of time. The corn relish will be about 5 days before you'll move it into the refrigerator. And the carrots could be about 10 days, maybe a little bit more. I'm just gonna use a piece of masking tape that I put today's date on, and I'm gonna put it right on the jar. That way I can always figure out when they're gonna be done. Make sure that you're testing your ferments to see if they are tasty. And when you're finished, make sure that you take off these lids, replace them with normal canning lids or the plastic canning lids, and store them in your refrigerator. They are going to taste amazing. So you guys, I want some feedback from you. Are you going to be brave enough to try fermenting? And if you have already fermented, give me some ideas of your favorite recipes to try. I would appreciate it. I would love it. You guys, I hope you learned a bunch today. I hope you enjoyed fermenting with me some of the harvest from our garden. Make sure that you are sharing our videos because it's the very best way to help us here on the homestead. Until next time, thanks so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.